Hello, I'm Tenty. I paint pictures and do furniture restyling. We are at the 4th episode of how to prepare a vegan and as natural as possible clay paint to use on all materials from plastic to glass to wood to metal and without primer. Today, finally, I will teach you how to make a real furniture paint. Let's start with a warm white color. But there's a surprise. Are you already subscribed to my channel? If you haven't done it yet, subscribe now and you could be the one to name my color. Write it below in the comments. The most original will be chosen. The winning name will always be mentioned in my videos where I use this color. Let's begin. You will need the Tanya Pigment Utilio, which is the most opaque white currently available on the market. For a paint quantity of 600 grams, you will need 200 grams of pigment. Keep in mind that white is one of the most pigmented colors because unlike other colors, white does not cover as well. Therefore, to be perfectly opaque, it needs more pigment than the others. To make a warm white, we need a little bit of yellow. In this case, we use the ventilated yellow earth pigment and add 5% relative to the white pigment, titanium, so 10 grams. Remember to place the pigments in a container large enough to also accommodate the other ingredients. After that, we add approximately 150 grams of distilled water, like the kind you use for the iron. For now, we set aside the pigments and prepare our natural gums, about 40 grams of methyl cellulose and 80 grams of rice starch. And we mix everything well. If you want to know how to prepare rice starch and methyl cellulose, remember to watch episode 2 and episode 3. I'll leave the link above. Then we prepare what is commonly referred to in the jargon of paints, as it is known in the industry, the charge, in our case the clay. The fine one, for paints it's called the English table. As I already mentioned in the first episode, you can find it on the website amifuji.id. Pay attention, because the kaolin must be the English one. There are many types of kaolin available on the market, but they are not as fine and pure as the English one. We put about 80 grams in a container, to which I add another 80 grams of distilled water and mix well. Then we proceed to blend the pigments with a kitchen mixer. Please make sure to use a mixer that you will only use for paints. This operation is necessary for the two colors to be perfectly blended. Otherwise, the yellow pigment would dominate the subiaco, and when applying the paint, all the yellow streaks would show. At this point, we add the two binders, namely rice starch and cellulose starch, which have already been mixed together in the container with the blended pigments, and we mix well. Then we also carefully add the kaolin and continue to mix. Next, we take the primal, our acrylic resin, which I already mentioned in the first episode, and shake it very well before opening it. Then we put 100 grams of it in a separate container, filtering it with a sieve because it might have some small lumps. At this point we can add the primal to the rest of the mixture, a little at a time, and always mix well. As you will see, by adding the primal, the mixture hardens. This only happens with the white pigment, titanium. Therefore, it will be necessary to add another 130 grain of water, always distilled, a little at a time, and always mixing well until you obtain a creamy mixture. The amount of water to add will be at your discretion depending on how much you want. Fluid and soft the paint. But be careful, don't overdo it, because the more water you add, the less coverage you will have of the color. The proportions I have given you I find correct for myself, and I managed to achieve perfect coverage with 3 coats. But it may also be that if you only need to glaze a piece of furniture, 2 coats might be enough. Afterwards, it will be necessary to pass the paint with a polisher because you might still have lumps due to the presence of bubbles. Here, the painting is finished. It weighs about 600 grams. In the end, remember to always place an important label with the production date and the name of the color. This paint, made as I just described, does not contain preservatives. In the winter months, it lasts quite well, even 2 or 3 months, if sealed properly. But if it's very hot, it might last only a month and then develop mold. For this reason, it's always better to produce it as needed. However, if you want to preserve it longer, I found it useful to add a pinch of Nipigon to be added at the beginning along with the pigments. Nipigon is a fungicidal biocide. It is found in powder form, always on the usual sites I mentioned, such as amicucci.it or antichitavile.it, but also in pharmacies. Use a small amount because it doesn't have a very pleasant smell. We have reached the end. I'll show you how this paint effectively covers in the first and second coat and works on all materials. I'll give you one last tip. If you happen to find the paint too hard to spread, especially in summer, never add water. You can add a surfactant wetting agent as you like, but not too much, and only from the second coat onwards. Never in the first coat, I recommend, because otherwise you will compromise the adhesion. I get along well with Pentasol. I'll leave the photo here for you. If you like this video, leave me a like and let me know if you tried making this paint and how it worked for you. And I remind you that there are 3 other episodes in the playlist, so if you want to delve deeper, come and watch them. Remember to subscribe to my channel to give a name to this color. The name will be chosen only among the subscribers and will always be mentioned in my videos where I use this color. With your contribution, you will remain in the history of homemade paints. What are you waiting for? Write it down immediately below in the comments. Thank you for watching my video and don't miss the upcoming episodes. I will give you many recipes for many new colors, and we will also talk about waxes. Bye! See you in the next video.